Well, hello, AirDNA data nerds. I am Mariah Kamei, and I am here yet again with Jamie Lane, our VP of Research. We are here in I think our fourth installation of our monthly update. Today, what we would really love to do for folks is just kind of sift through a lot of the noise, shed some light, some insight on all the things that have been happening with Airbnb, and then also, of course, with just the industry as well. And Jamie, I think like maybe we are going to have to talk about the R word today, right? Okay. And everyone's saying, what is the R word? Rentals? No. Talking about recession. So I think there's just been a lot of rumblings around about macro trends in the economy. Of course, if you're in the short-term rental industry, you might wonder what that means for your own financial future. So Jamie, break it down for us. What's really happening out there in the economy, and how does it relate to what's going on in lodging?
So Mariah, did you look at your 401k before we started our call today?
No, I try not to ever look at that.
Okay, well, I looked at mine and it wasn't pretty.
Okay.
And the stock market, and it's down. Like if you're in tech stocks, we're down 30%. If you're in sort of broader industry indices, it's 15 to 20%. If you put all your money in Bitcoin last year, you might be down a bit more.
Okay.
So there's definitely some reasons for concern there. And then like GDP was down last quarter. Like that's scary. Like
huge headline.
2 quarters of negative GDP generally means recession. But I do see all those as noise, especially when we look at the pieces of the economy that we care most about for sort of lodging and short-term rentals. So I really try to just focus on 2 variables that I look at on a regular basis, not on a daily basis. They come out from the government. One comes out once a quarter, one comes out every month. And if those 2 variables are heading the right direction, I feel good. If they're going the wrong direction, I feel bad. And those 2, one is consumer spending, and that's a piece of GDP. So how much are you and me and all our friends spending in the economy every quarter? And that was actually a really good reading last quarter. So it was up 2.7%. And that was actually the highest growth in consumer spending in the past like 3 quarters. So crazy. That number is looking good. So more people are spending more money, and conversely, more people have jobs. So in April, we added like over 400,000 new jobs. 3-month moving average is looking great. So more people having jobs, more people spending in the economy overall means more people traveling and more people staying in short-term rentals, and that I generally feel that the economy is going the right direction. So actually on the economic figures, I'm safe for me not looking at my bank account, my 401k. I'm actually feeling pretty good about where the economy is headed right now.
Well, I love this. First of all, you validated to me that I shouldn't be looking at my 401k, because at first I was like, oh no, I'm not adulting properly. Secondly, you've given me 2 very good metrics to look at. 1, spending quarter over quarter, and 2, job ad. So love that advice. I would say, I think we're in a lot of the forums. Obviously, we kind of have our ears to the ground listening to what our customers are saying. There's still, I think there's still a lot of folks out there losing sleep about bookings, right? And I think what I'd love to do is kind of add some context for folks to that metric, right? Because yes, bookings are down in context to 2021. 2021 was maybe a bananas year, right? So let's break it down for us, Jamie. What should we be thinking about bookings? How much is it relative year over year to where we were in, let's say, 2019?
Yeah. So for context, like you said, 2021 was a banner year for the industry. We reached 62% occupancy. Prior years, we were at 52%. And our forecast is that we are going to pull back, and we are seeing occupancy pull back a bit. So in April, we are down 1.7% versus April 2021. If we look at new bookings that happened in the month, we were down by about 3.5% versus 2021. So we had roughly 17.4 million nights booked last month, which was down. But for the context, like last March and April, that's when vaccines were rolling out. There was a lot of enthusiasm around travel. I know I was booking trips around that time, given that I had just gotten my booster. I was feeling invincible. And that was broadly what was happening. But the 17.4 million nights booked is 14% higher than we saw in April 2019. So we're still significantly above that level. And demand for and stays last month was up 25% over 2021 levels. So last year, so we're seeing way more people staying in short-term rentals. We're seeing, and save for the 2 months of March and April, when we just saw a surge last year, every other month, so January and February, we saw way more bookings than any previous January and February in history. And I expect that to pick back up again and throughout the rest of the summer, heading into fall, where we are surpassing last year's figures. The major thing that's impacting the weakening occupancy levels is all the new supply. So demand was up 25%, but supply was up almost 30%. So you and all your friends are adding so many short-term rentals to the ecosystem. Fortunately, like the demand is generally there. There are some markets that are weaker than others, and most of them are sort of either mountain, coastal areas that generally sort of March, April aren't high seasons. Last year, we saw a lot of people staying in areas that weren't typical. We were talking about that last year, like I think we called it the never-ending summer. Like summer started in April and didn't end until October. We're just not starting summer in April this year, which is sort of a more reversion to normal seasonality patterns.
That's what I was about to ask about, because I do think, at least anecdotally, I feel that, maybe there was this need to, like, to your point, like just go crazy with booking things. Like, I just want to be out of my house and traveling. And so you were planning farther ahead. Now, maybe we're going back to our normal schedule, which is like, I'm not going to plan that far ahead. I'm maybe going to be just a little bit more reasonable. So maybe some of that revenge travel, pent up demand is going to peter off.
And there's some like fun markets though. Like one of my favorite examples I was just looking at was Broken Bow Lake in Oklahoma. So this market has been on fire for new investment. Supply has really been coming in. Demand has been almost insatiable, but it's one of the markets that showed up on the list for a significant drop in occupancy. So last month we had about 52% occupancy, which was down like almost 15% from last year, but it's still 56% higher than 2019. So, and yes, a lot of new supplies coming in. Demand is still at record levels. Like people are still staying there like never before. We're just coming off of some of those highs in occupancy as the new supply comes in. But overall, like we're still seeing, most markets are still very profitable for the operators in them.
I love this. And so I think what you're trying to tell me is that Oklahoma is officially on the map and we don't see it going away from the map. Speaking of maps, I see a map behind you. It's rather large. Where's Oklahoma?
So yeah, this map, I'm not sure what the story of it is. It was a gift from some coworkers. And I do like that I can sort of, as I'm getting into the trends, if I really want to understand like what's going on with demand in Colorado, I can can dive into what's happening and really see the relationship between all these markets. But it's a great map, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's yeah. Let's show the people the map. It's, I mean, maybe at the end, it's pretty amazing. I think we mentioned it was your birthday a couple of weeks ago, and so yes, we couldn't think of anyone who needed a bigger map than you. So yes, now we can do weather forecasting for everyone, except not the weather, it's demand and supply forecasting. So look forward to more of that, folks, in your near future. All right. Back on business, but I love what you're saying, right? Like, so again, like, and this is so much of what Airbnb's new play is, right? Which is like sort of adding, like, I don't want to call it an algorithm, but it feels sort of algorithmic, right? In adjusting their user experience on the homepage and moving away from search.
Yeah, so, and it was part of Airbnb's release last week. So they've
Right.
got a few different things that they've rolled out. One, and 2 weeks ago, they put out their financials, and such strong demand, such strong revenue coming through the platform. Really unbelievable how strong that recovery's been.
And I think
But
we matched them pretty well, right? With our prediction.
yeah, our predictions were within a
Yeah,
percent, so we were pretty happy with that.
yeah, pretty happy with that.
But overall, they're looking to continue to push demand where there's available supply. And that was a lot
Correct.
around and sort of mapping itineraries for people. So whether it's with their new categories, where you can sort of pick the type of trip that you want, and they're going to show you short-term rentals that really can help accommodate that type of trip that you want, where you don't necessarily have to know that you want to go to Broken Bow or go to LJ, that you can just tell them, I want to go hang out at a lake, or I want to go to the mountains, and they're going to show you interesting units that can sort of support that type of travel, and that their algorithm can push people to those areas where occupancy is lower, and then sort of piecing trips together. So supporting long-term stays. So if you want to go travel for a month, that they can sort of build that itinerary for you. And I really do have a suspicion that that's sort of a first step towards a broader model where they can piece trips together in sort of a curated way. So really excited about what Airbnb's been up to and where they're pushing their platform.
I love that. And, hey, I would be all about pointing a dart at your giant map and just sort of picking a place to go. And I think, like, what a wonderful benefit, right, for guests, obviously, to sort of say, hey, like, you want to find the best place, that's going to be within your price range, greatest value. And so maybe you think it's Oregon, but maybe it's Northern California instead. So love that for the guests. And I think, like, let's unpack that a little bit, because I think there's also a lot of rumblings around, like, Airbnb being super guest centric, right? But let's, I think we all kind of have a different perspective on that. I'd love to know your perspective on, what the potential upside of Airbnb's new upgrades could be for hosts, right? Who, of course, we're all about the host over here at AirDNA.
Yeah, I, I love how you did that. And I think the piece you're pointing to is the air cover for guests. So essentially, Airbnb's rolling out a trip insurance. So if for a reason a host had to cancel your trip, they're going to make sure that you can still travel to the location, have a great place to stay, and that it's not going to impact that guest financially. How I see that is, yes, there may be some things I need to understand as I price my unit on what the risk is for me in accommodating that stay and listing it on Airbnb. But overall, Airbnb has opened up the short-term rental sector to so many more guests. We've got to remember that we're in an ecosystem where we're not competing with other short-term rentals and other short-term rental and platforms where people are going to book, but also within the broader hospitality concept of we're competing with the hotels in that market. We're competing with other types of lodging. And if Airbnb can help more and more guests get comfortable booking short-term rentals through their platform, that's going to be a huge net benefit for the industry. And overall, if we can bring more people in, it's going to drive and way more benefits for the industry overall. And it really helps with the professionalization that we know guests want, that they know when they book something, they're going to have a place to go when they're ready to go. And if that can help alleviate some of that concern out there, I think it's a good thing.
I love that. And I love that sort of just like zeroing in on this concept, right? Of like, the more folks that are choosing STRs over traditional hotel lodging, the better for all of us. And also sort of like thinking about this as being a long-term business, right? Like the more demand we can have for our short-term rentals, the better. So I love that. That's the upside of professionalizing the industry for us, and lots of, good things. What's good for the customer is good for the host. What's good for the guest is good for the host. That's really great context, I think, for folks. Well, Jamie, like just to sort of wrap it up, what else? I mean, hopefully this has given folks some, great sort of insight and context, and everyone can, take maybe a little bit of a deeper breath on the state of the industry and its sustainableness going forward. Lots of reasons for optimism, a few reasons for concern. Certainly, I think you gave folks a few metrics just to kind of keep an eye on, right? So nights booked, obviously being down a little bit, occupancy being down, but demand way up, ADRs way up, revenue continuing to grow, and available listings being reached. Any other parting words of wisdom for our lovely viewers?
And the one metric within the industry I'd keep an eye on, and we've got it on our website, is sort of the lead time in your market. So if you're expecting a big wave of summer bookings to come in, and make sure you understand when to expect those and when to really start to worry. So if lead times are averaging 30 days in your market, if you're expecting June, July bookings to start sort of flowing in, you may just need to wait a bit longer given how far in advance people are booking today. So stay on top of that, stay on top of how your competition is getting booked, and whether it's just you or sort of broadly within the market. And if it is just you, then be proactive in adjusting your prices, adjusting your listing, do those things that you need to do to make sure you're capturing your share.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah. And I think, of course, that's what MarketMinder is built to do. So yeah, dig into your smart rates, folks, get into the my comps and see what's possible there. And I love that's great advice, right? Like just get it into context, get some real perspective based on what's happening in your market, what's happening in your competition with your competition. Great advice, Jamie Lane, as always. I think I'm going to call this a wrap. What do you think? Yeah. Should we call it a wrap?
I think so.
All right.
Great talking.
Great talking to you too. Bye.